Basically, the R1b haplogroup.
Yeah.
Is basically responsible for 90% of the world or more, their inventions, basically. The top inventions. I mean, the R1b haplogroup, which seems to branch out around the British Isles and parts of Western Europe, basically has been responsible for some of the greatest literature, the greatest music, the greatest artwork, the greatest sciences. It's just, it's like, it's all focused in that one little area, that one little region. Little by comparison,
it's all focused in one small region that all shares the same Y chromosome.
Yep.
Is that a coincidence? You know, is there a genetic cluster in this particular area that has conquered most of the world, containing North Italy, which is Rome, Greece, which obviously had its own little empire, I believe, Germany, which had an empire, France, which had an empire,
the British Isles,
Spain, which obviously conquered the south of South America, etc., and the British Isles, which conquered virtually the whole world. And
even to this day, you find that a lot of like medical research and is being conducted also in America and Australia. And why would that be? Think about that, because the R1b haplogroup then was sent over to those two places. They're colonies, you know, British colonies, you know, Scottish, Irish, and British colonies. So that would make sense.
And also Germans.
Yeah, because there's a heavy German population in America. There even was during the colonial times.
Yeah.
There were, and Australia's got a lot of Mediterranean folks, like
Just
Italy.
Just look at every single civilized country in the world, aside from the East Asians, which are kind of like a separate issue that we could talk about another time. I don't really feel need to go into it. They're all colonized by white people.
Hi, this is a short disclaimer before I start playing this video for you in a form that is in no way edited, in no way modified. This is absolutely the same form that these people themselves uploaded in. The disclaimer is, I myself do not agree with any of the views in what you're about to see. Quite the contrary, I'm archiving this here so that those who are engaged in a critique of this type of material have access to it in an unmodified form. The original title, as noted, actually was Racists Break YouTube. So it was not my editorializing. I'm not adding that title. That's not my criticism imposed on this. That was actually the title they used. I have no idea why the people you're about to see deleted the video. I don't know whether they've deleted it temporarily or permanently in response to the very mild criticism that I offered in relation to it. But at this moment, it has disappeared from public view, so I think it is important that at least a small number of people have access to the original tape, again, in a form that doesn't have any of my editorializing added to it, that is not edited, but that states their views in their own terms in the original way.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, there's so much we could talk about. Why don't we start out with the hypocrisies of the left?
Okay, so what's hypocrisy?
Well, you know, one of the things that really irks me and something I've been thinking about a lot lately is, for instance, how they're all about, we're all the same. You can't talk about differences. You know, don't talk about inequalities or anything like that's considered hate speech. And yet they push diversity. You know, you can't have diversity if there aren't differences. So what is it, leftists? Are there differences or are there not differences? You know, or is it just what works in your favor? And just this hypocrisy, and that's just one of many hypocrisies of the left. That's really just, it's like, it makes me think they're idiots, you know, and painfully so.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the things that really annoys me is that they, and I'm not even going to call it the left. Let's not call it the left, because it's just the crazies. Like, it's not even to do with left and right. It's just like these crazy-ass people who think, and they do tend to be on the left, but not always, they think such things as whites are the only ones who can be racist, blacks can't be racist, black lives only matter if they were killed by white people, otherwise Black Lives Matter doesn't give a fuck.
Which is why Black Lives Matter completely ignores the multitude of black-on-black violence in Chicago. The statistic multitude of it. It's like, where are you when a black kills another black? Or mass kills blacks? You know, that's common in Chicago, looking at statistics, yet where's Black Lives Matter when that occurs?
And the number one race of murderers in the United States is black men, who comprise of 6% of the United States population, if you just specifically look at black men. And they're committing, I think it's either half or slightly over half of all murders in the United States at any given year. So they're certainly not, on the whole, an asset to the community, in my opinion. And this is where we start sounding like racists. And, I mean, for me, having done the research I've done, I'm just fine with being called a racist at this point. But what, you don't want to be called a racist, or?
I mean, the way I view racism is, when you harbor some kind of hate or desire to exterminate, for unreasonable, when you hate or want to exterminate or get rid of another race purely based on the race, not for any kind of legitimate arguments. Now, I'm not saying there's a time to exterminate anyone. I'm not advocating extermination. I'm just saying that my view of racism is when someone just, for no good reason, just hates an entire group of people blanketly. They don't even look at, that there might be some that are doing good, just as there's some that are doing bad. They just hate an entire group of people blanketly without having any real justification for it, besides the fact they just hate them. There's no rhyme nor reason to it. That, to me, is racism. To me, it's not racist to look at facts. Facts can't be fucking racist. So I don't see how people can label it racism when you just look at the cold, hard facts that show that, blacks rape more, blacks murder more, that we're having an extreme amount of Islamic terror occurring in Europe, across Europe. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's just so repetitive that every time even a small-scale loss of life occurs in some European country, I instantly go, okay, I look in the article, I'm like, okay, where's this going to say it's Muslim?
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where it's like, another one. Oh, wow. I mean, I feel sorry for the victims, but the anger that I used to feel about it is just kind of fading away, because it's almost like, oh, again, it's like...
And what's even more angering is that our own media is taking steps to try to obscure the fact that it's Muslims doing it. So, for example, with one guy who was called something like Ali David something,
yeah,
and was clearly a Muslim of...
I think that was the machete attacker.
Yeah, and was he, Persian or something?
No, he wasn't the machete attacker. He was the Munich gunman.
Okay, there are just so many we can't remember. And, so yeah, they're all coming from the Middle East. A lot of them are refugees or children of refugees. And the media is just blatantly trying to cover up the fact that these are Middle Easterners, and that we've seen, 5 different terrorist attacks?
Jesus, it's been in just the last week and a half, it's like one every day or every other day. Sometimes there's been 2.
I've lost track. They've all just kind of merged into one.
There was the axe situation. Yeah. There was the Munich situation. There was the mother and her 3 daughters that were stabbed because they were wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And what I have to say about that is, you come to these countries, you know what our customs and lifestyle is like, and then you get angry about it. If you don't like something, for instance, if I don't like something in another country or another culture, I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to go there and subject myself to it.
I don't even care about the Muslims or their motives or whatever. I don't even care about the blacks and their little problems they have in their communities, etc. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is how white people are dealing with it. And I don't like the fact that white people are covering up the attacks from the Muslims, letting Muslims in who have clearly not been vetted, letting Muslims in the first place when we know that they, 30% of certain groups, I can't remember, it's 20 to 30% of Muslims in different countries in Europe approve of terrorist attacks. So,
that's a new number. It just came out. I think Stefan Molyneux was talking about this.
Yeah, Stefan Molyneux. That was Pew Research. So, we have to deal with this bullshit, all of this bullshit, because people are too afraid to say, wait a minute, there's a correlation going on here. There's a pattern.
And don't forget the whole thing about but they're moderate. There's moderate Muslims too. It's need I remind you of Orlando? That was a modern Muslim. Yeah. Moderate Muslim.
we're not allowed to do basic pattern recognition, which is one of our survival skills.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to go, oh, pattern, pattern, pattern. Oh, Muslims keep blowing us up. Let's stop letting them in. You're not allowed to say that. That's racist. And you're not allowed to say, blacks keep going around killing people. They're the number one deaths by murder with illegal weapons. And even when they do commit murder overall, it's like 90% of the time done with an illegal gun. Yet these murder rates are given to us as an excuse of why white people should have their guns taken away. When the majority of killings by white people with guns is suicide, which you may think of as a bad thing, but they're not hurting anyone else when they do it, and it's a personal choice and personal decision, so I don't really see it as a super big deal.
The government doesn't like it, that's another taxpayer gone.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a really big problem that no one is allowed to speak openly about these racial and religious differences that are causing white countries massive problems, and if you dare to say anything about it, you are the evil incarnate, and you deserve.
You're literally Hitler, apparently.
Yeah. People, I'm not remotely exaggerating, people have lost their jobs for saying things that have been perceived as racist.
Yeah. And this brings me back to the whole point that facts can't be fucking racist. Facts aren't racist.
Yeah, there's a multitude of facts. You can look at some of my other videos. You can look at the videos of American Renaissance and Jared Taylor. You can look at the FBI statistics on race and murder. Just go to the FBI statistics website. You don't take it from us. Just go look with your own eyes. And then they make up all these excuses like, poor blacks, this is somehow a consequence of slavery, and all white people are responsible for slavery because 1% of them participated in it. Even though
we abolished slavery in the West and it didn't even last as long as it's still fucking happening in the Middle East. They're still, to this day, they harbor slaves. Even the Quran, I believe, even promotes slavery. It accepts it. It's still happening in Africa, I believe, as well. There's still parts of Asia where it's occurring, like in the Southeast, I suppose. So they get on whites for this when, it's been hundreds of years, at least a couple hundred years, and we abolished it in the West. And our history of slavery is nowhere near the history of the rest of the world. It's absurd. Sure, we did it, but it was a minority statistically. But it was comparing. If you want to look at the severity scale here, it's look at the ones who are still fucking doing it. Including blacks get on whites for slavery and they want reparations for it, when in fact blacks were selling their own kind into slavery to whites and to the Middle East. And to this day, I believe there actually is still slavery in Africa.
Yeah.
So
there is way, way, way more fuss about something white people did a few hundred years ago, and virtually no fuss about the current slave trade and sex slave trade going on.
Yeah. Where are the feminists when men are, forcing women into sex over in the Middle East, taking away their rights and treating them as second or third class citizens? Where are the feminists then? It's the same thing with where's Black Lives Matter when, blacks kill blacks in Chicago? Fucking virtue signalers. Fucking dumb virtue signalers. That's what you are. You're worthless.
Well, basically they want white people to pay out and white people to pander to them, which we have been doing for way too fucking long.
That's because there's too many fucking cucks.
And, another thing they do in the Middle East is child marriage, which is basically a combination of pedophilia and sex slavery.
Oh, but that fucking psychopath Muhammad did child marriage, He engaged in fucking children. He had Aisha, who he lovingly beat, Not only did he fuck her, but he lovingly beat her as well.
And how many Hollywood movies do we have about this? Oh, none, compared to the, tons and tons we have about, the Holocaust, and tons we have about slavery coming out all the time. And everything is there to demonize white people, it seems, and no one cares to point out the faults of any other ethnic group, ever. And we're fed up with it. And if you're white and you are just starting to watch this, and you think we're like some uneducated, ignorant white people who, you know, had racist parents and were indoctrinated into racism from a young age, and we just never, like, met a black person to relieve us of our ignorance, that's not the case at all. You know, I went to a series of highly multicultural schools. My own mother refused to allow me to go to a better school because it was too white. And yeah, I've had friends from all over the world, and so has Cory. In fact, one of Cory's good friends is a black guy.
Yeah, very intelligent guy. You know, this is why I'm saying a racist would blanketly, for no good reason, just hate a group of people because of the color of the skin or for whatever reason. Like, for instance, Johnny would be a racist because Johnny hates all blacks. But why does Johnny hate blacks? Well, they're black, you know. There's no real good reason for it. It's completely unjustified. Now, facts, like this is what we keep saying when we're talking about here, facts can't be racist. It's not racist to say that, you know, blacks are committing more crime. It's not racist to say, and that's in general, you know, it's not, you know, racist to say that there are a large number of Arabs, I'm not saying all Arabs, that are coming into Europe and even the States now, committing acts of terror and crime, to the point where it's getting fucking repetitive. Like every other day, if not every day, there is one, maybe even two, acts of terror or violence in a variety of scale, you know, from small to large scale, occurring across Europe, and Germany's getting a whole fuckload of them right now in different parts of Germany. It's not racist to say that. That's a fact. It's occurring. It's actually happening. We're not, you know, you're not imagining this. So that's a fact, you know. But it's not to say that all blacks are doing this or that all Arabs are doing this, you know. But there are a predominant number doing it, and this isn't racist. This is facts. Facts can't be racist. But try telling that to leftists. Leftists are these fucking dumb pukes who, when they can't win an argument, they instead try to shame or name call, you know, or you know, make you look bad or get your job taken away from you or whatever it is. They try to ruin your life. It's because they're too fucking dumb to actually fucking argue with facts. The facts comes like, ooh, they don't know how to react to the facts. They just get pissed, spat out more bullshit that you counter. They get more angry, and it comes to the point where they use the age-old argument of, look, fuck you! You know, that becomes their argument. That's a common argument amongst idiots, you know, but, you know, that there's just a lot of idiots in the left, it seems, you know. Maybe they all have I don't know, maybe the left is like a magnet for personality disorders or something. I have a friend who has a belief about that, or has a theory that the left is like a magnet for these virtue signaling,
they do tend to
narcissistic
in the head,
type, you know, people who need attention. They crave attention. They don't really believe in it, which is why they virtue signal, because virtue signaling is for the fucking lazy.
Alright, I'm gonna freaking rant.
Anyway, yeah, it just pisses me off. I hate fucking stupid. I'm just gonna say that. I fucking hate dumb.
Well, the irony is that a lot more of these people have actually graduated college. You know, it's compared to Trump supporters, supposendly. They've got more educated voted.
Well, the SJWs have taken over college campuses across America. Like, you know, I've said this before. Okay, listen. I've said this before, that there's a difference between, you know, book smarts and somebody who's genuinely intelligent. You can have somebody who can, you know, memorize facts and can make good grades. It doesn't mean they're intelligent. Intelligence is how you apply the things you've learned, the education that you have. If you're fucking dumb, then that education's fucking wasted on you. You know, you can regurgitate, you know, things you've heard right and left, but if you don't really understand it and you really can't apply it, then you're not really intelligent. You know, I've said it before, there are people who work top-level jobs who are idiots. You know, and I've met some of these. They're complete and utter morons. And then there are people who collect trash for a living who are brilliant. They just didn't want to do anything else. Maybe they didn't aspire. Maybe there are people who are very smart who are lazy too.
I don't know why it is. But
anyway,
we don't actually have any solid reason why it is.
Yeah, but I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. Anyway, the other statistic I want to give you is that on average, 30,000 white women in the United States are raped by black men, and close to nil white white men rape black women. So it's really a one-way street happening there, which just goes to show that white women have been made far more vulnerable to assault as a result of blacks being allowed to try to integrate into a white country, which is America. America was founded by whites for whites. And I believe that was actually written in the original Constitution. I'm not sure exactly which paperwork it was written in, but it was specifically stated that it was a country for free white men of good standing.
And that brings me to something else too. Sorry, this is a complete aside, but it's related. The whole thing of like, people, claiming that, oh, well, then what are you doing in America? Because, that wasn't your homeland, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We conquered America. We came, we had the ability, and we did it. The better man wins. That's how it works. And,
That's also how evolution works.
Exactly. It's like, why should anyone have to feel sorry for the fact that they came in and we were all on this planet the same amount of time. We've all been on this planet the same amount of time. It's not like, white people have had some kind of like, 3 or 4 or 5 or even more 1,000-year head start.
But it looks like it.
But it just looks like, do we appear like magicians or something, And we developed these, complex societies, the great architecture, the great artwork, the great music, the science, the literature, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Not to mention the wheel.
Yeah, meanwhile, our counterparts in other countries were living in mud huts and carrying baskets on their head. And in some places they still do this. Like, that's how far they've come with the same amount of time on Earth. So what's the reason for this?
We're not saying this because we hate them.
No.
Okay? We're not saying this because we want to kill them.
No, because exactly.
Which, for some reason, a lot of people assume. I guess that's like some kind of Hitler association or something. Ironically, we're actually... Cory's here wearing a Buddha t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm here reading Buddhism for Dummies. So, and we're both vegan. So just so you know, we're not just like some bloodthirsty, love-killing, inferior beings or something.
No, we just hate stupidity. We hate people who ignore facts. We hate people who twist things around. It's just absurd. This whole white guilt thing is absurd. Now, I'm not advocating, like I said, I'm not advocating we go over to any other country and wipe these people out. Now, we have conquered in the past, and that is because we came in and we were able to,
because we were technologically superior.
Exactly.
As a result of being intellectually superior.
If the native population of a territory that we went into was capable of defeating us, we would have been defeated and we would have left. It wouldn't have worked out very well. But, the only reason we were able to do it is because why? We could.
Yeah, we had such things as boats and guns, and they thought we were gods when we arrived in South America.
Well, in some places they call them the White Devils. But, yeah.
No, in a lot of places they thought we were gods when we stepped off the boats. Because they'd never seen anyone do that. They'd never seen men wearing armor or having guns or, anything remotely like that.
Don't quote me on this, but I think that only nations and only people in Europe and parts of Asia, East Asia, and parts of India had even were able to craft weapons out of like metals. Like in many of these places, they were still using fucking sticks and rocks and spears and maybe putting bone at the end of something for an arrow. They hadn't even learned how to shape metal, into advanced weaponry. So of course we were going to come in and conquer without much problem.
Yeah, then we are told, the only reason that we could conquer them was because they were such peaceful people. No, a lot of them were cannibals. A lot of them were doing human sacrifices on
scalping people's hair off
scale. They were committing genocide within their own little groups. These weren't just a savage people, and that's what they were called routinely, savages, and that's what they were when we turned up. And of course, you can, that's a subjective description. So you can say, well, I don't think they were savages, but the general consensus was that a lot of these groups of people who we conquered were savages, and the reason why we thought they were savages was because they acted like savages. They do such things as crapping in their own water supply, which they still do.
Yeah.
Which we're still spending millions and millions of dollars in foreign aid and trying to educate them not to do.
Europeans would come in and like build farms for them and try to show them how to farm, and then once those Europeans left, the farm would fall into disrepair because they didn't know how to do it, or they were too lazy to do it. But when you live in a country, you can walk outside and a coconut falls in your head. I mean, you don't really have any need to like have to learn how to do complex things like farming to survive, basically, because you can just find food like easily.
Yeah.
You know. It's just, whereas Europeans let them go through an ice age and therefore had to learn how to work in groups, had to learn how to farm. And plan ahead.
We started using agricultural technology 8 to 10,000 years ago when we settled after the ice age as the original humans settling in areas of Ireland, Britain, France, etc. And
basically, the R1b haplogroup
yeah,
is basically responsible for 90% of the world or more, their inventions, basically. The top inventions. I mean, the R1b haplogroup, which seems to branch out around the British Isles and parts of Western Europe, basically has been responsible for some of the greatest literature, the greatest music, the greatest artwork, the greatest sciences. It's just, it's like, it's all focused in that one little area, that one little region. Little by comparison,
it's all focused
relative.
in one small region that all shares the same Y chromosome.
Yep.
Is that a coincidence? Is there a genetic cluster in this particular area that has conquered most of the world, containing North Italy, which is Rome, Greece, which obviously had its own little empire, I believe, Germany, which had an empire, France, which had an empire,
the British Isles,
Spain, which obviously conquered the south of South America, etc., and the British Isles, which conquered virtually the whole world.
And even to this day, you find that a lot of like medical research and is being conducted also in America and Australia. And why would that be? Think about that, because the R1b haplogroup then was sent over to those two places. They're colonies, British colonies, Scottish, Irish, and British colonies. So that would make sense.
And also Germans.
Yeah, because there's a heavy German population in America. There even was during the colonial times.
Yeah.
There were, and Australia's got a lot of Mediterranean folks, like
Just
Italy.
Look at every single civilized country in the world, aside from the East Asians, which are kind of like a separate issue that we could talk about another time. I don't really feel need to go into it. They're all colonized by white people. And this is not because white people have gone around stealing and, as we are told, like they just stole all the gold off the locals or something, which I'm sure they did steal some gold, but come on, how much gold did these people have? They couldn't even... I don't think they were very technologically advanced enough to even get very much gold.
They knew there was gold there. They weren't working with metals.
Yeah.
They probably didn't even know there was gold there. Like, we just happened to find these resources that we could use.
Yeah, so there's this kind of idea that we've stolen everything off them and that's how we got wealthy. No, we were the wealthiest area on Earth before we branched out and built all these massive ships and went out and conquered the areas. So anyway, yeah, we're just fed up with being told that the only reason white people are wealthy is because they're bad people and or their ancestors were bad people. And now we have to pay in foreign aid, in welfare, by giving our countries up, by giving our citizenships up to people from third world countries.
And then the forced diversification in neighborhoods. But bear in mind, we're all the same.
Do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, it's like, I've heard, I don't know if this is conspiracy or what, but I've heard that Obama has a plan to force diversify neighborhoods in America that are what you would call lily white in America, which is basically their upper class, white, pretty much white-only neighborhoods that have extraordinarily low crime rates, obviously. Think parts of Westchester, New York, for example. And I hear that Obama has a plan. I believe that it's going to be carried over if Hillary becomes president, that she's got somebody from Obama's team that's working with her. It's like his legacy sort of thing, where they're going to force diversify these neighborhoods, where the government's going to buy up houses in these neighborhoods and put low-income, ethnically diverse families into them, including people that are known violent criminals, into these neighborhoods to force and to inject diversity. Again, these are people who claim that we're all the same. Then why use the word diversity, you fucking dipshits? You know, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Hypocrisy much.
Yeah.
But the point is they're going to force diversify neighborhoods so that all neighborhoods are forced, and basically by doing this it would also prevent white flight, because which is something that does occur historically, because where the fuck are you going to go if all neighborhoods are going to be ending up being forced diversified? You know, that's so, like, obviously they're trying to counter the potential of white flight as well, which does historically happen. It even happened in the South Bronx, if I'm not mistaken, was once a very white neighborhood, and that it's basically become a shithole, essentially, because when the ethnic diversity began to come into that neighborhood, the whites fucked off. And basically left them. The neighborhoods fell in disrepair because the locals that remain there just don't take care of the neighborhoods. They don't keep them up.
Yeah, I think we all know this intuitively. Yeah. I mean, everyone's driven through a really crap area and be like, "Oh, why this is a really crap area?" And it's like, "Oh, it's populated by ethnics. Wonder why."
It's the kind of area that me and a friend of mine jokingly say, like, when you pass through these, if you end up in one, hold on to your wallet.
Yeah, like we all intuitively know that there are certain groups of people who have a higher crime rate, who are shit at doing anything, who can't turn up on time to places, who are extremely unreliable and make mistakes all the time and expect to get bailed out for it. But yet we're told that to have this pattern recognition ability is to create a stereotype, and creating a stereotype is wrong and evil and you shouldn't do that. So we give ourselves a mental bitch slap whenever a little voice in our head says, maybe I should cross the road now this gang of black men is walking towards me. We give ourselves a mental bitch slap for even thinking that. And then it actually makes us more vulnerable to, like, getting mugged, raped in that situation, but in a more in a wider picture situation, it makes us more vulnerable to thinking that inviting a load of people who want to kill us into the country is a good idea.
And it's worth noting, too, that this is only happening in Western countries. Do you see any forced diversification occurring in Africa and the Middle East?
Yeah. Do you see Japan taking in?
Do you see a bunch of, like, Europeans or Americans or Australians that are just fucking dying to get into the Middle East and immigrate over there?
Do you see any churches being built in Saudi Arabia?
I mean, in fact, I think I was just reading a news article that in Japan and China, or it might be just China, but let's just say East Asia in general, they're trying to keep Islam from spreading. They're actually putting laws in place, preventative measures, to halt the spread of Islam over there. And they don't want it.
Come on, I would bet money they don't even have more than 2% of Muslims in the country.
Which is why, when I saw there was that knife attack that happened recently in Japan, it was one of the only violent attacks in the news that I've seen lately where I did not suspect Muslims. I'm just going to say. But every other attack, I'm just looking in the article, I'm like, okay, this is where am I going to find that it's like a Muhammad or an Ahmed that committed this attack? I mean, it's becoming so repetitive that it's almost like, oh, another one. Oh, another one. You wake up the next day and you look in the news, oh, another one. Another one.
Yeah.
To the point where even Stefan Molyneux was getting fucking tired of doing the same videos over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's not too stupid to realize what's happening is just basically getting tired of it. But, I mean, we went to a restaurant and there was this girl sitting next to us talking to another woman, and she was like, oh, I heard that, like...
This is the Nice attacker. That she had heard that he was just
mentally
ill, hated people, a one-off thing. It's like, yeah. You fucking kidding me?
Yeah, he was just like a lone wolf who just woke up.
I'm not going to deny that he might be mentally ill. I mean, to follow Islam, but I mean, it's just the fact that what he did, and I believe he didn't ISIS claim responsibility for that? Didn't he claim that he was doing it for the ISIS, that he was doing it for the Islamic State?
He had planned it ahead for months. So, if he's that mentally unstable.
Not to mention the fact that France in general, and not just Nice, but France in general, has some of the strictest fucking gun laws, and this guy was packing a fucking small army in the back of his truck. He obviously had connections. This wasn't just some sick guy who woke up one day and said, I'm going to go fucking kill a lot of people, and just happens to be, an Arab. This is somebody who had connections to basically have enough artillery to fucking supply a small army in the back of his truck. In a place with the tightest weapon, assault weapon Lols.
Yeah, anyway, I guess we've been going on for quite a while now, but I just want to speak up because we don't see anyone else speaking up in the media. The vast majority of people, even on places like YouTube, etc., are not speaking up. A lot of people get banned when they start saying stuff that's unpopular.
Or they get harassed and shamed. And I mean, I've on my own channel, I've had people, come out and attack me, like try to shame me, name call, things like that, because of Tara, my girlfriend, and because I'm friends with the Golden One. So they and these idiots don't know what a Nazi is. So they say, but did you know the Golden One's a Nazi? It's like, no, I didn't know he was a National Socialist. I just thought he was a nationalist. I didn't know he was a National Socialist. In fact, I thought he was he didn't really agree with socialism. These fucking idiots have no idea. They throw the word Nazi around like they don't even know what it means. That's the thing about the leftists. They don't even have a fucking clue. And
I think they actually just use Nazi as synonymous with nationalist.
Yeah. They call people literally Hitler.
Yeah, and being a nationalist just means you want the best for your country. It doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you condone by any means.
I'm sure there are African nationalists. I'm sure there are people who are nationalists of Middle Eastern countries, just like there are in Asia and in Europe. There's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your people, in your ancestry, in where you've come from, and those people who have fucking died before you, so you can have the goddamn rights to be around right now and speak, and attack them and have this white guilt. You wouldn't even fucking be here if those people hadn't been here before you. So show a little fucking respect for your ancestry. Just a little fucking respect. There's nothing wrong with having respect. It's not racist to love your ancestry. It's not racist to have pride in your ancestry. It's not racist to want the best for your people and your nation, your country. It's not racist to do these things. So stop fucking calling people racist who want these things, because it's absurd.
Look, I don't even give a fuck if they call me racist. I don't give a fuck.
I'm just, for me, I don't really care. They can call. I've been called that. I've been called worse. But the thing is that it's stupid, and I can't handle stupid. Stupid fucks things up for the rest of us. That's the problem with stupid. Low IQs fuck things up for the rest of us.
Yeah. So, if you wonder why these correlations are happening, it's because of physiological reasons, brain differences, hormonal differences.
Yeah.
We are very different. We look very different on the outside, and we are very different on the inside. Evolution doesn't just happen on the surface.
Yeah. Races and gender, we're all different. It's absurd to say we're all the same. Because tell me the last time that a female powerlifter, her max was as great as a male powerlifter. And tell me more why it's fair when somebody who is a transgender who still has their balls and dick is competing against women in like a sport or an Olympic sport or something. It's like, it's not fair. There's a reason why they segregate the genders. It's because they're not the same. And it's the same thing with races. We're not the same. But, that's just how it is. It's not racist to state the facts. But these leftists want to live in a little rainbow-colored world where roses and rainbows and everything smells sweet and everything tastes good and everyone is fucking equal. It's not the case.
Yeah. It's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow when you realize that people are born with a genetic cap on their IQ.
Yeah.
Some people who are born, they're never going to have an IQ higher than 85.
Yeah,
whatever you do, treat them like a prince, and they will not have an IQ.
The thing about that is that so I know you can't help being born in a specific country with a specific a specific race or a specific IQ or whatever, But the thing is like, let's say you're born with an 85 IQ, just like somebody who's born with a 2-inch dick. That's like, I'm sorry, you got the shit of the stick. I mean, you can't really do anything about it, but just make the best of what you got, I guess. But, to go around saying that everyone is equal when there are inherent differences, even amongst, whites, there are inherent differences. There are some whites that, I meet that are so low in IQ, and I'm just like, I can't even talk to these people. I can't have a reasonable conversation with them. It's just ridiculous. There's just inherent differences. Nobody is that. We're all different. There's always going to be someone smarter, someone less intelligent, someone who's got a bigger dick, someone who's got a smaller dick, somebody who's more talented in a given area, somebody who's less talented, somebody who has no fucking talents. There's always going to be differences. There are differences. We're not all the same. And it's absurd to try to say that we're all the same when the differences are smack you in the face obvious.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also
just fucking look. Observe.
Try to demonize people for exercising basic pattern recognition abilities. Okay? You know, there are patterns based on what happens within ethnic groups. And people will say it's cultural and, oh, it's just how they were brought up, etc. But no, I believe that culture is secondary to genetics. So if people are like have violent tendencies in their culture, it's normally secondary to genetic, physiological, biological reasons. You know, in white society we have a high trust culture, but this is after like thousands and thousands of years of killing off the people who are criminals. You know, because we used to kill them. We used to just get rid of them, get them out of a gene pool.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't have so many criminals. Same with samurai in Japan, you know, it's like, if you were a criminal, you lost your head, or you got sliced down the middle of a body with a samurai sword.
Or if you were, you know, if you basically dishonored your family or your line or lineage or yourself, or in some way you would commit harakiri, you'd commit, like, you know, ritual suicide, and you would basically gut yourself to show, to redeem yourself, essentially, you know.
And you did redeem yourself by not reproducing. You won a Darwin Award and did your race a favor. And that's what we've been doing for thousands of years. Whereas in Africa, it's literally like the most violent man gets the most women, you know, in these kind of situations. So they just have not evolved in the same way that we have.
And that comes down to the whole R selected, K selected thing as well, which is another difference. See, we're not all the same, you know. So
yeah, we have different genes. You know, people say, oh, our DNA only differs by 0.5% or something. But hey, our DNA only differs by 0.5% with monkeys as well.
I know, like, I think it's like 1% with some, almost 1% with some gorillas and something. We can't mate with them, so obviously it's a significant difference, you know. And believe me, there are scientists who have attempted to see if gorilla sperm can impregnate, you know, if human sperm can impregnate female gorillas, and if a
yeah, that's kind of irrelevant.
And vice versa. I'm just saying, like, you know, it just goes to show that you can't, you know, no matter how close we may be. In genetically speaking, yeah. If a species can't mate.
Yeah, this is another thing. Like, we're routinely told that it's perfectly fine to mix races. Yet, there are reproductive and birthing difficulties and mortalities that occur as a result of race mixing, which I'll probably make a video about in the future. But we're just not told this. This is just gets covered up.
And the thing is that the doctor's not saying things about that could actually cause harm to the mother.
Yeah, well, I guarantee you the doctors aren't even getting told about it, you know, unless they're looking at specific research in this area. So yeah, everything is getting fucked up in our countries as a result of us putting our heads in the sand and refusing to just stand up and say, yes, there are racial differences, and yes, it is a problem to import some of these races into our countries. You know, some are more problematic than others.
On the bright side, people, I think, are beginning to wake up a little more and a little more. I mean, with the absurdity of what's happening in Europe right now, with like a literally every other day attack from Muslims, and you can see the media is now actually starting to not mention that it's Muslims, because I think they're realizing, holy fuck, this is happening every fucking day. People are going to start like going, oh, what? And making, and even the dumbasses are going to start connecting the fucking dots sooner or later.
They're now proposing that it's racist to call it terrorism.
Yeah. But the thing is that, like, what I was trying to say is people are beginning to wake up now. Donald Trump is even in the lead. And it definitely helps the DNC leak that just occurred. But, you know, people, I think, are beginning to wake up. They're seeing the absurdities. They're beginning to connect the dots. You know, and, you know, there obviously is going to be a lot of cognitive dissonance as well, and there's going to be those who just refuse to wake up, and some that Tara and I have encountered recently, you know, for one reason or another, they're too stubborn to wake up. But there are people who are waking up, and they're realizing that, you know, shit's getting real, basically, and we need to, you know, preserve. And
the faster people realize this, the less damage we do. So if you are already aware of this kind of stuff, you really, really need to start planting seeds in people's minds carefully, suggesting certain things in a gentle way, and then again a few weeks later suggesting something else, and slowly some people may come around to it without even realizing that it was you who catalyzed this change of mind.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who Tara has actually red-pilled. And the way he got red-pilled, it's kind of funny, is that he was presented with data by Tara, just in casual conversation that he couldn't refute. And he was a leftist, a hardcore leftist, and he tried to find people who could help refute, including a scientist, who could help him refute what he was presented with, because he couldn't adequately do it himself. He just knew something wasn't quite right. And when this scientist, who also was a leftist, basically said Tara needs to check her fucking privilege, which is the common comeback that means I don't have a fucking argument against what you're saying. I can't debate you, so it's like the fuck you argument. You know, when he realized that, being that he's an intelligent guy, he was like, yeah, shit's not lining up here. There's something up. You know, if this person can't even figure it out, and her Black Lives Matter friends can't even figure it out, and can't come back with a retort, and the best that she can come back with is check your privilege, which is a non-argument, he just woke up. He literally woke up then and there. He was like, well, something's amiss. Something isn't right. And looked into it more, and now he's a stark, raving, alt-right guy who's like concerned about Europe, concerned about America. He's mad about the state he lives in, how fucking leftist it is, but at the same time he's too poor to move. But he's always going on about that. I'm not going to give any more details about him, because not that anyone probably even knows who he is, but I just want to.
But anyway, I think that from my perspective right now, I think the number one thing we can do is to wake up those people who are willing to listen. We don't need everyone to hear it. We just need a small percentage of a population who are willing to listen to the facts, to look at them, to examine them, as I was a few years ago.
And even if they're a little resistant at first, it's just opening their eyes to it. Because once you plant that seed, if someone's intelligent and someone's reasonable, even a modicum of intelligence, that seed is going to sprout little by little by little, and they're going to they might start exploring things themselves, or reading more, or listening more, watching more videos or something, and eventually they're going to come to the same conclusions, and they're going to have these eureka moments where it's like, oh, why didn't I know this? Why didn't I realize this before? Holy shit, I was in the dark, I was brainwashed.
Yeah, so I think American Renaissance has some really excellent speeches by professors, scientists. Stephen Molyneux has some excellent interviews by professors and scientists.
If you need a sort of a light entry into it, this Paul Joseph Watson.
Yeah,
he's like alt-right light, basically. It's like this is like an introductory course.
Well, he doesn't appeal to me. Maybe it works for some people, but anyway, yeah, he is very limited in my opinion. He doesn't even believe that the race issue.
There's another really good channel too that I don't know if Tara's familiar with, but it does a lot of debates with blacks and that sort of thing, and basically the stupidity of the left as well. He's always off on leftists. And that is a channel called Atheism is Unstoppable. Now, I'm not an atheist myself, I'm an agnostic, so regardless of that, but he's a pretty intelligent guy. His avatar is a kangaroo, and he does some pretty good videos that are pretty eye-opening. They're pretty interesting.
There's also a guy called, I think his name is Tommy Sotomayor or something, and he calls out the crazy-ass shit that black women do. And it's kind of entertaining to watch, although quite sad, obviously, because they tend to do stuff like killing their own kids, which is more prevalent among blacks than whites due to our selection. But I won't go into that too much. You can look it up if you want. So yeah, I encourage you to make videos. I'm going to start trying to make some of my own videos, even though I'm in a free speech limited zone right now, which I'm not very happy about. But
she's actually reconsidering moving to the States now.
We keep going back and forth about whether she
we were in Brighton and we were like, UK would be such a great place to live, and we were looking at places in the UK. We were looking at places to rent. It would be a quick move, like Lake District and places like that. We were looking all over the UK, York, Northumberland, the South. Around Brighton area as well, and but then we suddenly just had a thought, maybe the US is actually better. We did a pros and cons list of reasons why one would be better than the other, and
yeah, basically I have more freedom of speech in the US, and we have guns. So, yeah, to sum up, like, we're just desperately hoping that Trump gets elected. We're about, 3 months away from finding out?
Yeah, yeah. But he's in the lead today. There's a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters. A lot of Democrats don't want to vote for Hillary, especially after the DNC leak. So Trump is taking the lead. I mean, it really did her a blow. I mean, she doesn't really have any real good arguments against Trump, and Trump's got some bombshells to drop on her. She's taking blows right and left. I bet she's shitting herself right now, shitting herself, probably crying.
I don't know, I think she might be too psychopathic to actually have any emotions.
Yeah, but psychopaths love that attention. They love winning, and when they're losing, don't they? I'm sure they're going to go into some kind of a fucking, rage.
Yeah, I think they get angry about it.
She's probably slapping Bill around. She's done it before. Punching Bill in the face.
Oh, poor Bill. He's probably getting beaten up by his wife.
Oh, my fellow Americans. My wife gets beaten.
I find it hard to feel sorry for a serial rapist.
Yeah. I did not rape that woman. Then he comes out later. It's like, I did have sexual relations with that woman. That was on the news in the mid-90s. It
wasn't I didn't rape her. But anyway.
Oh, never mind.
Alright. Okay, so thanks for watching. If ask questions if you want. If you're kind of new to this stuff, we are very much open to answering. I'll try and answer as many of your questions as possible. And yeah, hopefully you can watch my next video. If you're not subscribed yet, this is a good time to subscribe, because I've got a few ideas about some upcoming videos. So thanks very much for watching, and bye-bye.